And in her work that she did her whole life, she took up another job in Qualicum Beach to support her art, and that was in doing the layout, the art advertising rather, for a local paper in Qualicum Beach. And she got to visit many businesses and asked them to advertise in the local newspaper, and she enjoyed that. It was not art, but it got her out and supporting what she wanted to do. But she decided she should go back to school, and she went to a resident care worker course in Victoria. And our dad, I know, was a little doubtful that she'd finish that course because it was not something Ina would necessarily choose. But she finished the course, and she knew she had to have it to support her art. And it was a very physically demanding course, and work afterwards. And she did private home care, and she did institutional home care as well for quite a few years in Victoria. And I remember there were so many funny things with Ina, but an obscure friend of our brother Rob's came to visit in Victoria, and we fed him. Ina came home late with shift work, and we'd just finished some Chinese food, and it was about 10 o'clock, and this fellow came, and we fed him our leftover Chinese food, and his dilemma was that he needed to find a villa somewhere in the world, and should he have a villa in the Caribbean, or should he have a villa in the south of France? And Ina, when he left, she said, "This is his problem. What have I been doing tonight? I've been wiping bums." And she just couldn't understand this problem that this guy had. And it was just one of those moments, that you never forget, because there was such a contrast. But she was very compassionate, and she sympathized with the worlds that her patients often lived with, the people that she cared for. As Greg pointed out, she sometimes liked other worlds more than this one, the imaginative world. And I remember visiting her once in one of the institutions in Sandringham, and she said, "Now, Mary, this man used to work for the RCMP, and he thinks he can still communicate with the RCMP through his watch. So if he holds up his watch, just go along with it, okay, and talk into this watch." So I said, okay, But it showed me that she respected who they were, and she really enjoyed people, all kinds of people, for so many different reasons. And Ina also had to go. She decided the resident care work was too much for her, and she wanted to go back and teach, because she'd been into my class at the University of Victoria. I was teaching English as a second language, and I asked Ina to come in as a speaker, and she did so well. She had a lovely, breathy voice, and she was animated and passionate about what she was talking about, and she could stand up and talk about Emily Carr and tell stories, and the students were just mesmerized by her, and she decided to go into teaching. She had to write a letter to the Ministry of Education because her marks weren't up there, but she was determined, and when Ina was determined, she could do something, and she got in. She graduated and had her teaching degree in art, specializing in art. But Victoria was a tough city to work in. She did substitute. She went far outside of Victoria and to Souk and taught there, and she got into South Island education and was a marker and a teaching assistant for special needs again, and she got commended in her letters of reference for the work she did and the sincerity and positive enthusiasm she brought to her work with people. So she was highly effective as a teacher, as a speaker, in so many things. She did a lot in and around Victoria, but because it wasn't anything full-time, she decided she had to go further afield, and she got online. She wasn't really familiar or she fought the computer. I guess technology wasn't her thing, but she got on the computer when she needed to, and she got a job in China for English as a second language. And I remember she'd been, out of work, and you all know how that feels sometimes. She said, I have a full-time job, Mary. It's in China, and I'm going to go. And she went. She stayed there for about 2 years, and again, she had high recommendations by the principal of the international school there, saying how well she worked with both the Chinese and the North American side of the school. And the little kids she taught, from kindergarten, she taught up to adults. And she grade 1, and they didn't know English, and I don't know how she managed. But I have a quick little letter from her where she was talking about Shanghai and her first job, which was really horrific. It was a distance from where she lived. But she said, I'm having the most incredible time. Shanghai is 100,000 times bigger than Victoria, like an anthill, swarming with business, building going on everywhere, madness, and unexpectedly lovely moments. I have had a 2-hour trip on foot, subway, SkyTrain, and bus to get to my school. Mary, you would kill yourself laughing at what I go through every day. By the time I reach the school, I'm so tired I can hardly stand up, and it's wet, hot, humid, so my clothes are drenched in sweat. It's amazing I've lasted this long. But the children are delightful little monkeys, high energy teaching, but going fine, I think. And she was always very modest, really, about anything she did, because she was never sure, And so she spent 2 years in China, and when she came back to Victoria, she didn't really feel like she should stay there. She was restless. She wasn't feeling like it was home. So she came. I talked to her and said, Ina, come to PI. It's so affordable, and it's beautiful, and just come for a holiday. And she did. And she fell in love with PI. Ina could get very enthusiastic about new places, and she loved the red soil, and she loved the ocean and the pastoral scenes, and she said, yeah, I think I'll come and live here, and she did. And in 2000, I was there in 2006, she came in 2007, March, bought a little house, and she did a lot of things in the 2 years that I was lucky enough to have her. She bought a house, she worked in the college, and she was never able to get on the college in Victoria because nobody could get on the college circuit there. And as soon as she came, she was substitute teaching the first week. And we ran a business together. We had her art and my jewelry, and in a little lighthouse in a summer shopping area in Summerside. And she did really well with that, very organized. And some days she couldn't face the 12-hour days, but she did it. And she was just, it wasn't all easy, but she was a wonderful person to have. And knowing what came afterwards, I'm so glad I had her in PEI. The common and enduring thread throughout Ina's life was her passion and persistence with her painting. She didn't talk often about it, as I've said before, but she did write a letter to John Brinkman about her art, and I found it, and I thought, oh, this is maybe something people would like to hear. And she was talking about her art in PEI. And she said, I'm also working on a number of bait shed paintings, which were these fish sheds out on the water in the wintertime on the ice. These are the most charming buildings squeezed together.